Not only were they unable to do that, after 12 days of bombing, the Israeli government showed that they did not have the capacity to defend their own citizens. For the first time ever, normal Israeli society experienced some retaliation, incurred penalties. It's Christmas is in July for the GOP. I agree for the immeasurable loss, extended my deepest condolences. Oh, no, he was too busy posting about the 7 Israeli occupying force that got exploded in southern Gaza while they were doing a by the way. Just make no mistake. Brace responds, John, man to man, sometimes when I see lists of people like this, I wish I could join them. I'm sure you understand. When they are there is no pressure or pain or smear jobs or your former friends. Just eternal peace. Calm. It sounds nice, no? Oh, I thought you meant Brace is walking him off the ledge. Didn't realize he was pushing him off the ledge. I haven't seen the video, but I will say this. I have a really good solution to all of these brave sergeants and staff sergeants, okay? Half of them are like literally 20, by the way. Don't do a side. It's simple. For the very fact that there are still Palestinian resistance forces amidst an ongoing starvation campaign and a campaign, that they are still able to smoke Israeli occupying forces with real frequency, as a matter of fact, is a testament to 2 things. 1, the diaper force is ass cheeks. And 2, the Palestinian resistance is unimaginably resilient. Make no mistake, for the record, make no mistake, the Palestinian resistance, no matter what faction they're from, has a legal and moral right to do this, as opposed to the Israeli occupying force that does not have a legal right to do a genocide, nor even a legal right to do any sort of military campaign on a captive civilian population it is the belligerent occupier of. Okay? This is not the same assessment as October 7. Do you think the armored vehicle's okay? No, it's not. I heard that bulldozers had to come in and try to base air by dumping sand on it. So no, the armored personnel carrier was not okay in the process either. Since we have seen that the only way that Israel stands down is when it's met with insurmountable force, perhaps instances like this will cause Israel to reconsider its campaign. I saw that shit. Dude did it with a cell phone in hand to film. I haven't seen the video. I've just read accounts of it. Al-Qassam fighter storms Israeli APC and Han units. 7 soldiers in close range ambush. Also, another like 10 additional units were also gravely wounded in the process, I think. In a dramatic ambush captured on video, resistance fighters from Hamas military wing carried out a complex operation against 2 Israeli armored personnel carriers near the Ali ibn Abi Talib Mosque in Han Yunis, southern Gaza. Israeli authorities acknowledged that the attack, part of the David Stones campaign, Hijrat Dawood, has 7 soldiers, including an officer. Some 15 others were reportedly injured. Some of them were actually seriously injured, for the record. Footage released by Al-Qassam shows one of its fighters running towards an APC. I can't show you this, obviously, because I would get banned for it, because Twitch TOS. Not that it shows anyone dying in the process, but, you know, TOS is wonky. Footage released by Al-Qassam shows one of its fighters running towards an APC packed with Israeli troops, climbing aboard under fire and dropping a Shuaz explosive device directly into the command cabin before withdrawing safely, all while filming himself with a cell phone in the other hand. According to Al-Qassam, the attack was followed by a second ambush targeting Israeli military rescue efforts, reportedly resulting in additional casualties. The operation has been widely circulated across Arabic media and pro-resistance channels, hailed as one of the most direct and high-risk strikes carried out at point-blank range since the conflict began. It marks the single largest loss for the Israeli military in Gaza since it renewed its genocidal assault in March this year. Now, let me tell you something. That's the difference between a settler colonial enterprise illegally occupying an indigenous population and the members of militancy within the indigenous population that is not only defending their ancestral homes, but also defending their neighbors, their community, while they are being starved deliberately and ethnically cleansed off of this land. Okay? That's it. A lot of people will say, oh, I can't believe you're celebrating this. Those people do not have a moral backbone. They do not have a leg to stand on. The easiest solution to not have your Nazi troops die in the process is to no longer do a campaign. These people have a legal right to resistance. Make no mistake. Regardless of the paperwork, regardless of the Western backing, what Israel is doing is illegal, and what the Palestinians are doing in this process is 100% legal. 100% legal. Not only is it legal, it is the moral thing to do as well. Criticizing this and complaining about it and saying you're brainwashed terrorist glizward, like this dipshit just said. You don't have to ban all these people. We can have a little bit of discourse here. But criticizing what they're doing is no different than criticizing the partisans during World War II, the Jewish partisan movement, and the Jewish resistance against the Holocaust. It's no different. The only reason why you would consider this in any way, shape, or form different is because you don't see that. That's it. I don't even know what glizward means. The massive swing of public perception on Palestine has been one of the best things I've seen in my life. It's unfortunate that they came at the cost of so many lives. Yes. Now, this kind of casualty on the Israeli occupying force, the diaper force side, is also creating dissent inside Israel after the Khan Yunis ambush. In the 24 hours following the Khan Yunis ambush, where at least 7 Israeli soldiers were reportedly and 15 wounded, senior Israeli political figures from across the spectrum have publicly questioned the continuation of the war. Though the operation was under military censorship, details of it were likely known to officials as these statements emerged. Yair Lapid, leader of the opposition party and the head of the centrist Yesh Atid party, released a video reiterating his call to end the war in Gaza. Let me say something to you, okay? Make no fucking mistake. This is why I said Israel also took a fat L on the Iran campaign, because its ambitions were far greater. Benjamin Netanyahu thought that he could do the final play and destabilize the Islamic Republic while simultaneously continuing his genocidal operations, which never stopped, as a matter of fact, even during the tit-for-tat bombing campaigns. But the reason why this was a big L for them was also because America did not involve themselves in a more meaningful fashion and basically remove the attention off of Israel in the process. There was a limited retaliation towards an American base, Al Udeid. It was a symbolic retaliation. It was an off-ramp, and Trump took that off-ramp. And then that ceasefire came. And I know for a fact that the war cabinet did not like that ceasefire came. They wanted America to join in on the conflict and finally take the battle directly to Iran, okay? Not only were they unable to do that, after 12 days of bombing, the Israeli government showed that they did not have the capacity to defend their own citizens. For the first time ever, normal Israeli society experienced some retaliation, incurred penalties. Israeli civilians died in the process. They were with Iranian rocket fires, some inside of their own shelters, and some that were sleeping and could not make it to a shelter in time. That is a major blow to the confidence, because Israeli society prides itself on being a Western-style nation where you can have a laptop job, you can get a matcha latte while there's it going on 50 miles down the road. You can shelter yourself from the impact of war. You can shelter yourself from the impact of the violence that you cause all around the vicinity. Okay? America gets to do this because of our proximity, geographic proximity to all of the destabilization and violence that we are causing all around the world. But Israel can't do that unless they get unlimited support from every Western nation in the form of anti-air defense systems, for example. And even with the entirety of the Western world backing Israel, Iranian ballistic missiles were able to make short work of the anti-aircraft capability, anti-air defense capabilities that Israel had, penetrating through the Iron Dome, the Tamir interceptors, which are $200,000 a pop. The Arrow ballistic missile defense systems, David Sling, and even the additional THAAD launchers that the United States of America had offered Israel after Operation True Promise 2 was also successful for the Iranian side, showcasing that Iran had the capability to reach inside of Tel Aviv. This is a major blow. This is a major blow to the confidence that that the Israeli government has, that they can continue doing all of these violent things without experiencing any sort of serious repercussions. And I told you it was just a phone call. All it took was one singular phone call. We know he was on the phone and Netanyahu ordering Israeli planes that were on the way to Iran that they should be turned around. Trump ordered that. It happened. Joe Biden also had the capability to do so, by the way. And Trump still has the capability to do so with respect to the ongoing ethnic cleansing campaign. But if there was one lesson to be learned from the 12-day war, as Trump likes to call it, Israel only stands down when they have to. And America recalculates how much Israel can fight with how costly it is to defend Israel. That's it. So the more things like this happen, okay, the more Al-Qassam fighters are able to take out terrorists that are engaging in ethnic cleansing in the Gaza Strip, the less appetite Israel will have for war. That is what you're seeing here. This is why I say Israel is done. Okay? The Zionist project is over. It is on its last leg. I know it doesn't seem that way because you're seeing you're seeing so much death and destruction. Every day there's 50 Palestinians starving, looking for aid, being fired upon. You see perfidy every single day. You see numerous crimes unfolding in front of our eyes. And it feels like this cleansing campaign is going to continue, but it's done. This is Israel's last chance of making any sort of gains here. Okay? It's over. It's done. It's been done. Here's Yair Lapid, leader of the opposition party, head of the centrist Yesh Atid party, released a video reiterating his call to end the war in Gaza. While not a new position, Lapid has also stated that any future deals with Hamas would not be binding. A former prime minister and previous finance and foreign minister, he remains the country's most prominent opposition force. Aryeh Deri, one of the longtime leaders of the ultra-Orthodox Sephardic Shas party and a former interior and health minister, called for the war to end. This marks a position without precedent from Deri in this genocidal war. Shas is the third largest party in the Knesset, and his support remains crucial to Netanyahu's coalition. Moshe Gafni, head of the ultra-Orthodox Degel HaTorah faction and chair of the powerful finance committee, asked, "To this moment, I don't get why we are fighting in Gaza. What is it serving? What are we going to do there that justifies soldiers getting killed all the time?" A fellow Degel member of Knesset echoed the sentiment, an unusual level of public dissent and uncommon for his faction. Miriam Feiberg Ikar, mayor of Netanya and an influential figure within Likud, called for an end to the war. Hamas cannot be eliminated. It's an ideological movement, not just a group of people. She called for Israeli withdrawal and suggested an Egyptian military administration in Gaza. Almayı order'ı finalize etmeyi unuttum. Tamam. Yok kalmadı mı tavuk hiç? Peki. She called for Israeli withdrawal and suggested an Egyptian military administration in Gaza. While she lacks formal influence over national policy, her remarks signal diminishing enthusiasm for the war, even among senior governing coalition Likud members. An internal Hamas assessment of the current situation, which was circulated on Wednesday and obtained by Dropsite, asserted, Trump is trying to capitalize on what happened in Iran to strike a deal with Gaza, and his recent statements about progress in the negotiations indicate this. Israel is talking about progress, but without agreeing an end to the war. The assessment also said that Hamas believes the recent ambushes of killing Israeli soldiers by armed Palestinian resistance fighters from Hamas's Al-Qassam brigades and Islamic Jihad's Saraya al-Quds are contributing to internal pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. After the Han Yunis operation, voices rose within the Israeli opposition, the ruling coalition, and media and political circles regarding the need to stop the war, its futility, and the resulting losses, including increased casualties and the continued detention of prisoners inside Gaza, the Hamas assessment determined. When the fog of war is lifted and Western intervention becomes a necessity in Gaza, that will be the final death blow to Zionism as an ideological project. Benjamin Netanyahu understands that. Many members of his cabinet understand that as well. And militancy such as this one make it an impossibility to continue doing this campaign because it becomes far too costly. It becomes far too costly for Israel. That is the only thing that they have successfully backed away from. Okay? It does not matter if Israeli society is legitimately delusional and the censorship is so severe. What matters is the Western backing of this campaign. Once there are Western media outlets on the ground in Han Yunis, in Rafah, showing the betrayal of humanity, the indecency, the violence, the bloodshed, the genocide. Once Western NGOs are on the ground helping the Palestinians, reaching out to them, allowing them to communicate directly to Western audiences, it will destroy all hope that Israel is and will ever be anything but a pariah state and a Nazi government that participated in a live streamed Holocaust. It's over. Make no mistake. It's over. The moment that Israel reacted the way that it did post-October 7, the Zionist project ended. In the process, they engaged in an undeniable campaign of it made it so that the final ambition of Zionism was so clear to anyone watching from the outside, and maybe even some former defenders as liberal Zionists on the inside. It made it clear to everyone with a conscience that this was an unsustainable, exterminationist, supremacist project identical to previous fascist movements. I fear this is too optimistic. I imagine Israel will eventually pull out of Gaza and attempt to return to life as normal. And I'm not confident the Western states, especially the U.S., will not just pretend that things are back to normal. Why are you so convinced that everyone will turn their backs? Because what we have seen thus far, us, people who have actually paid close attention to what's going on, changed many people's minds in this community. Post-October 7, I was unyielding in my position in terms of defending Palestinian emancipation. I lost a third of my audience in the process, okay? I was, and I still am, yelled at as a terrorist, okay? And now look at where overall public sentiment has shifted. Back then, Israel enjoyed the highest level of approval. That was a year and a half ago. And this is with this is with half of the picture because we have no capacity to see the full picture. Palestinians don't have the capacity to see the full picture at this moment because the healthcare infrastructure was deliberately crippled by Israel. Journalists were deliberately assassinated by Israel. So even Palestinian society broadly does not know the full impact. So once that death toll is completely calculated, it will become undeniable. Okay? 100%. When you have, yes, independent researchers and journalists go into Gaza and see the true horrific scale of the genocide revealed in real numbers, in raw numbers, it will be undeniable. And you're already seeing that from outside assessments. Outside assessments talking about how there's perhaps 377,000 Palestinians that are unaccounted for, that are simply missing right now. They're not missing. They're dead. Israel murdered them. Okay? And I think even that is a severe underestimation. I think the Lancet study early on arrived at the correct number. We still talk about 60,000. That number is such a severe underestimation that it's basically akin at this point to genocide denial. Harvard report reveals 377,000 missing in Gaza based on Israeli military's own data. This is on top of the 60,000 plus that have been killed directly by Israeli rockets or directly by Israeli missiles or directly by Israeli gunshots that have been logged in the diminished, crippled healthcare infrastructure that still remains in the Gaza Strip. The 60,000 have been confirmed. The 60,000 have names associated with them. The hundreds of thousands have not been revealed. This is before we even talk about the number of Palestinians that have died as a consequence of not being able to get their medication, the number of Palestinians that have died as a consequence of famine and famine-related diseases, treatable illnesses. That is why the Lancet study is significantly higher, and significantly was higher even a year ago, because that Lancet estimation factored in all of the additional war casualties, all of the additional deaths that are born out of destroying all semblance of existence in the Gaza Strip, reducing it to nothing but a crater, as you can see in this photo. So when the dust is settled and people make correct assessments, Israel is over. They have committed an unforgivable crime, and they did it in broad daylight. And I think there might even be a reckoning. I think there might even be a reckoning for Western leadership that played a role in this. A lot of people, especially older people, that are operating with the old order of business, that think that the mainstream media can simply keep these things under wraps, that can control the media environment, control the media landscape, are wrong. It is not the faith that I have in decency, even though I do have a lot of it. I place a lot of faith in normal people looking at this and recognizing right from wrong. I do. Because what took place here is fucking deniable. It's ironically enough, much of the Holocaust scholarship that has played a formative role in people basically hammering into their minds how unimaginably cruel the crime of genocide is. Now, Israel initially might have done so because it suit their purpose for Zionism, by some people's estimations, like Norm Finkelstein. Okay, it definitely played a role in the Zionist project to talk about how singular this systematic death and destruction was. But it was literally, it was a formative part of everyone's social conditioning that genocide is an unimaginable crime, an undeniable crime. Far too many people learned this, ironically enough. And it was maybe even a formative part of why they thought Israel had to be a state in and of itself. But if you learn this lesson, that genocide is an atrocious, undeniable crime against all humanity, you can't turn around and say, actually, it's okay when Israel does it. It doesn't work that way. There are too many people. There are far too many people. Did Harvard report reveal 377 Gazans are missing? The number has been misinterpreted. Yeah, it's Hasbara. It's actually larger than that. The number has been shared by many internet users and media who claim to be relying on a Harvard report. However, this figure misinterprets an Israeli study, which itself contains an error in the numbers at the root of the confusion. As of June 24th, 56,000 Gazans have been killed, according to the health ministry, in Hamas-run Gaza. By the way, this is the most insane Hasbara article you could have found. The figure was also shared by media outlets such as Middle East Monitor and the New Arab, an Israeli study not from Harvard University. All these publications refer to a Harvard report, but no Harvard. The fact the study everyone is pointing is by Yaakov Garb, a researcher at Israel's Ben-Gurion University at the Negev. Published on June 3rd, 2025, the report does not deal with the dead and missing during the war in Gaza, but with the problems linked to the humanitarian aid distribution center set up by Israel at the end of May with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. The study does not come from Harvard University. However, it was published on the Harvard Dataverse, an online repository. As for the number in question, it actually stems from a misreading of the study published in a blog post on Medium. On June 10th, an internet user named Maximilian published on this platform an analysis of Garb's study entitled The Grim Arithmetic. IDF data reveals 377,000 Palestinians unaccounted for. Although this figure was never published by Garb, Maximilian claimed to have found an unspoken number. The map showed 3 population clusters on the territory whose population the Israeli army announced at the end of May it wanted to displace. The indicated number of the inhabitants in each of the clusters in Gaza City with a population of 1 million people, the coastal region Al-Mawazi with 500,000 residents, and the center of the Gaza Strip with 350,000. This totals 1.85 million inhabitants. This corresponds to every single number that the American government has used and every single number that the Israeli government has used, for the record. Everyone has asked that exact same question within the data set. Why is it that official military numbers report that the population has diminished from 2.1 million in Gaza to 1.8 million, sometimes roughly 1.7 million in Gaza? There are a massive number of people that are unaccounted for. This is their own number, by the way. This is their own number. Why is their own number so different than the actual population estimates? It makes no sense. How is it that Israel is capable of moving supposedly 2 million people? Let's say it's 2 million. Let's say it was never 2.1 million, even though I think the initial estimates before October 7 was that the Gaza Strip was home to 2.2 million Palestinians. Okay? One of the most densely packaged open-air prisons on the planet. One of the most densely populated areas on the planet is 2.2 million, right? The number of people killed by Israel has remained around 60,000 in perpetuity, even though Israel keeps racking up more and more numbers every single day. How is it that I am supposed to believe, by Israel's own estimation, that the already densely packaged Gaza Strip that was housing 2.2 million Palestinians is capable of reducing the area that they live to literally 18% of the Gaza Strip? That's Israel's own number. That's Israel's own plan. Israel's own plan right now, official plan, is that the remaining 1.8 million, 1.7 million, 1.5 million, however many Palestinians are capable of existing in only 18% of the Gaza Strip. That is where they have pushed the entirety of the Palestinian population to. Now, there are, of course, hundreds of thousands for sure. I would say like at least 100,000, if not more, have been able to escape the Gaza. Different ways of doing so from the Rafah border. There are people that are now living in a concentration camp in the United Arab Emirates. Some of this stuff is not really talked about as well. That's real. I know some people that are currently living in the UAE, in a camp inside of the UAE. This is what I'm referencing exactly. Nearly 2 million Palestinians, now forced to just 18% of the Gaza Strip, are enduring overcrowding, disease outbreaks, and severe distress. Okay, so this is like saying that the prisoners of Auschwitz were enduring overcrowding, disease outbreaks, and severe distress. Not the full picture, is it? Yeah, straight up. How is it that I am supposed to believe that 1.7 million, 1.5 million, let's say, are capable of living in 18% of the Gaza Strip? That is insane. Can confirm the UAE thing? Yeah. This is not talked about quite a bit, but I know Palestinians who escaped Gaza and are currently living in a camp in the UAE. Like, so let's say 100,000 to 200,000 was able to successfully escape. There are still at least 200,000 that are unestimated, unaccounted, not counted for. It does not make sense. The numbers do not add up. So that Harvard report, maybe being falsely suggested as a Harvard report, is actually talking about the Israeli military's own numbers and their own estimations on how many Palestinians remain in the Gaza Strip. Okay? According to the health ministry and Hamas around Gaza, 56,000 Gazans have been killed. Although, by the way, they keep saying Gazans. 131,000 wounded and 100,000 left Gaza. Okay? Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics say 100,000 people have also left the Gaza Strip since the start of the war. So it's not even 200,000 that left, 100,000 left. That still doesn't account for, that still does not account for hundreds of thousands of people. Even if the misunderstanding or a typo from 700 to 500 is simply a misunderstanding, it doesn't account for, again, hundreds of thousands of people. If the Gaza Strip is 2.27 million before October 7, and now the estimates range from 1.5 thousand to 1.7 thousand. What you were referring to when you mentioned they keep calling them Gazans, that kind of went over my head. Yes. Pro-Israeli groups refuse to recognize Palestinians as Palestinians because they don't want to even offer an aesthetic statehood. Okay? They do not want to offer statehood or recognition to the existence of Palestinians. If you say Palestinians or Palestine, that offers a recognition to a Palestinian statehood. That's why when you hear someone say Gazans, It's a red flag for someone like myself at least. Hayır gelmedi. Açık mı? Murat açmıştır belki. And yeah, here it is. Once again, proof that Trump has the capability of stopping Israel.
Furious response from Donald Trump. We know he was on the phone to Benjamin Netanyahu ordering Israeli planes that were on their way to again bomb Iran, that those planes should be turned around. Donald Trump ordered that. It happened. And absolutely...
One phone call. After the planes even fucking